Welcome to our channel, World Inheritance, the fourth part of the history of Jerusalem. In this part, we will talk about the reasons for the Zionists' occupation of Palestine from the year 1948 to 2023, starting with the British occupation of Jerusalem and the Balfour Declaration, which gave the Jews the right to the Zionists to occupy Palestine. Who is called the Pope of the Jews? Theodor Herzl, founder of the Zionist movement, played a major role in the migration of Jews to Jerusalem. Herzl believed that the Jews needed a homeland of their own, and that Palestine was the right place for that. In 1896, Herzl published his book The State of the Jews, in which he called for the creation of a Jewish state in Palestine. This book inspired many Jews to immigrate to Palestine. In 1897, the first Zionist Congress was held in Basel, Switzerland. This conference was a landmark in the history of the Zionist movement, as it established an international Zionist organization and announced its goal of establishing a Jewish state in Palestine. After the First Zionist Congress, Jewish immigration to Palestine increased dramatically. The Zionist movement encouraged Jewish immigrants to settle in Palestine, and helped them buy land and build homes. The First Zionist Congress was a conference held in Basel, Switzerland, from August 29 to August 31, 1897. The conference was a landmark in the history of the Zionist movement, as it established an international Zionist organization and declared its goal of establishing a Jewish state in Palestine. The conference was chaired by Theodor Herzl, founder of the Zionist movement. The conference was attended by about 200 delegates from all over the world. The conference passed a resolution stating that the goal of Zionism is to establish a national homeland for the Jews in Palestine guaranteed by common law. The conference also established an international Zionist organization, which was later called the World Zionist Organization. In 1917, Britain issued the Balfour Declaration, which promised to create a national home for the Jews in Palestine. This promise helped promote Jewish immigration to Palestine, as many Jews believed that the Balfour Declaration represented an important step towards achieving their goal of creating a Jewish state. In 1948, the State of Israel was established. This allowed Jews to immigrate to Israel freely, greatly increasing the Jewish population in Jerusalem. Based on the above, it can be said that Herzl played a major role in the migration of Jews to Jerusalem. His belief in the necessity of establishing a Jewish state in Palestine, and his activity in the Zionist movement, were among the most important factors that led to an increase in Jewish immigration to Jerusalem. What is the Balfour Declaration? The Balfour Declaration is a public statement issued by the British government headed by Arthur Balfour, then Foreign Secretary, on November 2, 1917, to Lord Rothschild, the leader of the British Jewish community. The declaration affirmed the British government's support for the establishment of a national homeland for the Jewish people in Palestine. The text of the statement was as follows. His Majesty's government view with favor the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people, and will use their best endeavors to facilitate the achievement of this object, it being clearly understood that no action shall be taken which would be prejudicial to civil or religious interests, the rights of non-Jewish communities existing in Palestine, or the rights and political status enjoyed by Jews in any other country. Main points of the Balfour Declaration. She affirmed Britain's support for the establishment of a national homeland for the Jewish people in Palestine. It recognized the rights of non-Jewish communities in Palestine. It affirmed the rights and political status of Jews in other countries. Impact of the Balfour Declaration. The Balfour Declaration was a major turning point in the history of the Zionist movement. It encouraged the immigration of Jews to Palestine. He helped pave the way for the creation of the State of Israel in 1948. The Balfour Declaration has been controversial since its issuance. Some hailed it as a step forward in recognizing Jewish national aspirations. Others criticized it as a betrayal of the Palestinian Arab people and the beginning of the process of their displacement. What did the Jews do in Palestine in 1948? The Jews did the following, announcing the establishment of the State of Israel. On May 14, 1948, David Ben-Gurion, the interim Israeli Prime Minister, announced the establishment of the State of Israel. This declaration was issued in Tel Aviv, after the British mandate over Palestine ended. The outbreak of the First Arab-Israeli War, the announcement of the establishment of the State of Israel led to the outbreak of the First Arab-Israeli War. 5 Arab countries participated in this war: Egypt, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, and Iraq. Israel's control over most of Palestine. During the war, Israel controlled most of Palestine, including East Jerusalem. This led to the displacement of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians, who became refugees. The Palestinian Nakba, the 1948 displacement of Palestinians, is referred to as the Palestinian Nakba. This Nakba had a profound impact on the Palestinian people, and contributed to the continuation of the Arab-Israeli conflict to this day. After the establishment of the occupying state in 1948, the Arab-Israeli conflict continued. Israel fought several wars with neighboring Arab countries, and was eventually able to expand its control over the Palestinian territories. Below are some of the major events that occurred in Palestine after 1948. These are some of the events that occurred after 1948. Suez War. 1956 war broke out between Israel, Egypt, France, and the United Kingdom. The war ended with a truce, and Egypt regained control of the Suez Canal. Six-Day War. 1967 war broke out between Israel, Egypt, Syria, and Jordan. The war ended in a landslide victory for Israel, as it took control of the West Bank, Gaza Strip, and the Golan Heights. October War. 1973 war broke out between Israel, Egypt, and Syria. The war ended with a truce, and Israel regained control of most of the territory it lost in the Six-Day War. Camp David Accords. 1979 Israel and Egypt signed a peace agreement, in which Israel recognized Egypt's sovereignty over the Sinai, and ceded control of the Sinai Peninsula. Oslo Accords. 1993 Israel and the PLO signed a peace agreement, in which Israel recognized the PLO as the legitimate representative of the Palestinian people, and began a process of negotiations on the establishment of a Palestinian state. These events led to major changes in the situation in Palestine. Israel's control over the Palestinian territories has expanded, and there are a greater number of Palestinians living under Israeli occupation. Below are some of the measures taken by Israel after 1948. Israel built Jewish settlements in the West Bank and Gaza Strip. This settlement expansion has been a major source of tension between Israel and the Palestinians. Israel used military force to suppress Palestinian resistance. These practices have led to many Palestinian victims. Israel imposed a system of apartheid between Israelis and Palestinians. This system has led to the marginalization of Palestinians in all aspects of life. Based on the above, it can be said that the Zionist occupation of Palestine after 1948 had a profound impact on the region. It led to the expansion of Israel's control over the Palestinian territories, and to increased tension between Israel and the Palestinians. What is the Oslo Accords? The Oslo Accords were signed in 1993 between Israel and the Palestine Liberation Organization. This agreement paved the way for the establishment of a Palestinian state. Below are some of the main events that occurred after the Oslo Accords in Palestine. Below are some of the major events that occurred after the Oslo Accords in Palestine. The Palestinian National Authority was established in 1994. The Palestinian Authority was granted limited control over parts of the West Bank and Gaza Strip. Intifada. When was the first Intifada in Palestine? The first Palestinian Intifada began on December 8, 1987, and ended on September 13, 1993. This Intifada was a popular Palestinian protest against the Israeli occupation of the Palestinian territories. The Intifada was characterized by the use of stones as a main weapon in the confrontation with the Israeli army. The first spark of the Intifada was an Israeli truck driver running over a group of Palestinian workers at the Erez checkpoint, which separates the Gaza Strip from the rest of the Palestinian territories. This led to the martyrdom of 4 Palestinian workers. The uprising quickly spread throughout the Palestinian territories, and extended to occupy Jerusalem. The Intifada faced severe repression by the Israeli army, resulting in the martyrdom of more than 1,500 Palestinians and the wounding of more than 70,000. The First Palestinian Intifada had a major impact on the course of events in the region. It led to the international community's recognition of the right of the Palestinian people to self-determination, and also paved the way for the Oslo Accords that were signed between the Palestine Liberation Organization and Israel in 1993. When did the Second Intifada against the Zionists break out? The Second Palestinian Intifada broke out on September 28, 2000, after the Israeli Prime Minister at the time, Ariel Sharon, stormed the courtyards of Al-Aqsa Mosque, under the protection of about 2,000 soldiers and special forces, and with the approval of the Prime Minister at the time, Ehud Barak. Sharon's storming of Al-Aqsa Mosque, which he considers Muslims the third holiest place in Islam, witnessed widespread anger in the Palestinian street. The Palestinians took to the streets in massive demonstrations, protesting the incursion. The Second Intifada developed rapidly, and the pace of military actions escalated between the Palestinian factions and the Israeli army. The Palestinian factions used various types of weapons, including bullets, grenades, and explosive devices. Israel launched large-scale military campaigns in the West Bank and Gaza Strip, with the aim of suppressing the Intifada. Israel used excessive military force, which led to many Palestinian casualties, including children and women. The Second Intifada actually ended on February 8, 2005, after the truce agreement held at the Sharm El-Sheikh summit, which brought together the newly elected Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas and Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon. The Second Intifada left a huge loss of life, as the number of Palestinian deaths reached approximately 4,412 people, and the number of wounded reached approximately 48,322 people. The Intifada also left widespread destruction in the Palestinian infrastructure. The Second Intifada destabilized the situation in the region. It also led to an increase in tension between Israel and the Palestinians, and to the complexity of the peace process. The Second Intifada led to the strengthening of Palestinian national awareness and increased international support for the Palestinian cause. It also led to the emergence of new Palestinian factions, such as Hamas, which became a prominent political force in the Palestinian arena. When was the Sharm El-Sheikh Agreement? Israel and the Palestine Liberation Organization signed the Sharm El-Sheikh Accords on February 8, 2005, at the conclusion of the Sharm El-Sheikh summit that brought together Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas and Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon. The Sharm El-Sheikh Agreement stipulated the following: Israel's withdrawal from the Gaza Strip entirely, including Gaza City and all Israeli settlements. The Palestinian Authority handed over control of the Gaza Strip on August 17, 2005. A ceasefire between Israel and the Palestinian factions. Security cooperation between Israel and the Palestinian Authority. Results of agreements. The Sharm El-Sheikh agreements were implemented on time. The Israeli army withdrew completely from the Gaza Strip on August 17, 2005. Israel's withdrawal from the Gaza Strip has improved the security situation in the Strip and increased the freedom of the Palestinian population. Challenges facing the agreements. The Sharm El-Sheikh agreements faced many challenges, including the political division between the Fatah and Hamas movements, Israeli settlement expansion in the West Bank, the continued Israeli occupation of the West Bank and East Jerusalem. In 2007, Israeli commitment to the Sharm El-Sheikh Agreement ended in 2007, when Hamas took control of the Gaza Strip. This led to Israel severing its relations with the Palestinian Authority, Fatah, and imposing a blockade on the Gaza Strip. In 2014 Paris Agreement. Israel and the Palestine Liberation Organization signed the Paris Agreements on May 15, 2014, in Paris, France. The agreement stipulated a new establishment to resolve the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. The agreements aim to achieve permanent, just and comprehensive peace between Israel and Palestine. The agreements are based on the following principles: establishing an independent Palestinian state with East Jerusalem as its capital, land exchange between Israel and Palestine, solving the Palestinian refugee issue, ensuring Israel's security. The agreement stipulated the establishment of a joint executive committee of representatives of Israel and Palestine, headed by the Israeli Foreign Minister and the Palestinian Foreign Minister. The committee aims to set an agenda for the negotiations and follow up on the implementation of the agreements. Although the Paris agreements have been well received internationally, they have not been fully implemented. The agreements face challenges from both the Israeli and Palestinian sides, leading to negotiations halting in 2014. The following are the most important events that occurred after the Paris Agreement in Palestine. The outbreak of the Israeli war on Gaza in 2014. The Israeli war on Gaza led to a deterioration in relations between Israel and the Palestine Liberation Organization, which led to the cessation of negotiations. Palestinian elections, 2015. The Palestinian elections were won by Hamas, which led to more tension between Hamas and the Palestinian Authority. 2015 Israeli elections. The Likud party, headed by Benjamin Netanyahu, won the Israeli elections, making it more difficult to reach a peace agreement between Israel and Palestine. In 2020, the United States of America tried to revive negotiations between Israel and the Palestine Liberation Organization, but the negotiations did not yield any significant results. Currently, the Palestinian-Israeli conflict continues, with no indications that a solution can be reached in the near future. The following are some of the challenges facing resolving the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. Disagreements over Jerusalem. Disagreements over Jerusalem remain one of the most prominent challenges facing the solution of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. Israel wants to keep Jerusalem as its unified capital, while the Palestine Liberation Organization wants East Jerusalem to be the capital of a Palestinian state. Disagreements over the borders of the Palestinian state. Disagreements over the borders of the Palestinian state also remain a challenge to resolving the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. Israel wants to maintain control over as much territory as possible, while the PLO wants to gain as much territory as possible. Palestinian refugee issue. The Palestinian refugee issue also remains a challenge to resolving the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. Israel wants to resettle Palestinian refugees in other countries, while the Palestine Liberation Organization wants to allow Palestinian refugees to return to Palestine, and at the present time, specifically on October 7, 2023, the resistance did the following. The Hamas armed movement in the Gaza Strip launched an unprecedented attack on Israel on October 7/October, when hundreds of fighters infiltrated areas near the Gaza Strip. At least 1,400 Israelis were killed. Israeli army spokesman Daniel Hagari announced that the number of prisoners held by Hamas was 230. Daniel Hagari reported that the army is gradually expanding the ground operation, noting that the goal of intensifying military operations in Gaza is to pressure the release of the Israelis detained there. He pointed out that the number is not final, noting that the army is investigating new information. The number also does not include 4 hostages that Hamas released, namely the mother and her daughter Judith and Natalie Ronan last week, and the elderly Yeheved Lifshitz and Nurit Cooper. Israel dealt with this by cutting off water, electricity and food for 2 million Palestinians for about 42 days in a row while they were defenseless and without weapons. They were supposed to be there safe in their homes. On Saturday evening, November 18, 2023, the Ministry of Health revealed a new toll of Palestinian deaths and injuries in Gaza and the West Bank as a result of the outbreak of conflict between Hamas and Israel on October 7. The Ministry of Health said that the death toll rose to 12,012 people, while the number of wounded reached about 32,300. The death toll among health personnel reached 205, and 36 from the civil defense, in addition to more than 215 wounded health workers, and more than 60 ambulances, 55 of which were damaged and out of service. All of this changed the number of Palestinian prisoners held by the Zionists. Prisoners' institutions, the Prisoners' Affairs Authority, the Palestinian Prisoners Club, the Adamir Foundation for Prisoner Care and Human Rights, and the Wadi Hilwa Center, Jerusalem, documented 2070 cases of arrest in the West Bank, including in Jerusalem during the month of October 2023, including 145 children and more than 55 women. And this is not the last. There are more and more crimes committed and are being committed by Israel over the course of 75 years of brutal occupation. The question here is, for what sin kills defenseless people? And children, women, and the elderly. I would like to conclude the video with the saying of the best of human beings, Muhammad, may God bless him and grant him peace. The messenger of God, may God bless him and grant him peace, advised us regarding wars. He said, "Do not cut down a tree, and do not kill a woman, a boy, a newborn, an old man, or a sick person. Do not mutilate corpses, and do not go to extremes in killing. And do not demolish a temple and do not destroy an inhabited building. Even camels and cows should not be slaughtered except for food." He also commanded us to be kind to the prisoner and to honor him and feed him. As Hamas does with the prisoners, O God, grant victory to Palestine, the mighty, the powerful.